In this lesson, we'll look at how we can use definition lists to organize definition-based data. And a definition list is essentially, as the name implies, a subject and a definition associated with that subject. As we talked about with accessibility before, definition lists are extremely helpful for creating associations between a subject and subject matter associated with that subject. Using HTML tags the way they're intended to be used as often as possible is a good habit to get into and will help you create websites and components of those websites which are as flexible as possible for as wide a range of users as you could possibly reach and support. Since someone who might be visually impaired might be using a screen reader to read your page, knowing that the subject matter associated with your subject is connected by use of a definition list is a better way of presenting the information using perhaps text with a break tag between the two and formatting the text so that they look like related items, but the browser doesn't know with certainty that one is connected to the other. Let's take a look at how we do this. I'm building on my newsletter sample, and I'm going to add some subject matter covered in that chapter and a page number. Maybe I'll change the title heading to be subject, which will make a little bit more contextual sense in this example as I save my file and reload. So I'll populate into my table a chapter name, subjects covered in that chapter, and a page number in my fictional newsletter where you would find that information. So I'm going to specify a chapter name, and as we've seen in our previous work with tables, that to get information inside a table cell, you need to locate the corresponding TD element in your HTML. In this case, we were just modifying our table headers, which are our second row inside this table. So the very next row would be where the first table cell is, which I'm highlighting in blue to illustrate the point, would be in the cell underneath the cell with the word chapter in it. Corresponds to this highlighted text in my HTML document. And what I'll do inside that table data cell is type some text. And I'll give myself a few more lines by hitting the carriage return on my keyboard a few times and tabbing over the closing TD tag and tabbing over the contents that I wish to go in this cell, only to make it more legible to us. And I'll type in a chapter called the Solar System. And I'll save my file and switch over to my web browser to make sure the information went where I wanted it to go. And I see the text show up as I expect. But now I'm going to put in some subjects covered inside this chapter. And I'd like those subjects to be presented as a definition. So the next corresponding cell in this row is the next corresponding TD element in the table row in which we're currently working, which I'm highlighting in blue. So I'll position my mouse inside the second TD element to modify this cell in my web browser, which I'm pointing at with my mouse. So I'll position my mouse inside the opening and closing TD tags for that cell. And I'm going to hit the return key several times to give myself some more room to work, and tab over the closing TD tag so everything stays nice and well presented from a nesting point of view. And now I'm going to create a definition list. A definition list is very similar to an unordered list in that we have an opening DL tag and a closing DL tag. And I'll put a few more lines in there. And contained within these tags go our definition titles and our definition data. Since we're dealing with definition titles, the tag we want to use is DT. And I'll close that DT tag as soon as I create it, so I don't forget to. And immediately after that DT tag, I'll hit return on my keyboard, and I'll create definition data to go with my definition title. So I'll use the DD tag and close it as soon as I create it. And I'll take out these extra lines that I've got between my DT, DD, and DL tags. Now, just looking at my nesting structure, I have a definition list element which contains a definition title, which I'm highlighting in blue, and a definition data that corresponds with that definition title. Now, I can start to enter data into these elements. So if the chapter is the solar system, the subject might be the sun. So I might type the sun as my definition title, and the definition data describing that title might be something along the lines of center of our solar system and source of all our power. And again, because the web browser ignores white space, I'm just hitting the return on my keyboard and tabbing over that copy so that it's easier on our eye to view. Now if I, from the File menu, select Save, switch over to our browser, and hit Reload or Refresh, I can see the sun appears flush against the left-hand side of the table cell, but the definition data associated with the definition title, the sun, is indented, implying that that text is associated with that title.